Hi, I'm Jim Wild from the Merrimack Valley Housing Partnership. We've taped a series of segments about the process of becoming a homeowner. And I'm pleased today to welcome Kelly Espinola of Keller Williams Merrimack Valley, who has an office here in Lowell. Kelly is a real estate agent, and she's also one of the volunteer guest speakers that we have for our home buyer training classes. Welcome, Kelly.
Hi, Jim. Great to be here. Thanks so much for inviting me to participate.
Great to have you here. Kelly, buying a house is one of life's biggest endeavors. And
Absolutely.
There's a lot of people involved in the process. Besides the buyer and seller, there's a lender, an attorney, a home inspector, a real estate broker, insurance people, an appraiser. And so can you tell us a little bit about the role of the real estate agent?
Absolutely. The primary role of the agent is to introduce buyers and sellers to facilitate the process from beginning to close. It's very important for people to understand that there are different types of agents out there. There are agents that work specifically for the seller, which are called seller agents, and there are agents that work specifically for buyers, and those are referred to as buyer agents. It's truly important that a first-time home buyer leverage a buyer's agent in order to help them through the process.
When you sit down with a client for the very first time, what do you talk about? What do you do?
I do an interview in a way. I talk to them first about what they're looking for. What type of house are they looking for? What neighborhood would they like to be in? How long have they been preparing for home ownership? I need to educate them about the current market, and I need to also make them aware that it is very competitive and that we're always out there first, putting our best foot forward in order to ensure that we're getting our offer on the table as quickly as we can for what they're interested in. Buyers have to be prepared to act quickly. It's very important in the market. And I always suggest to my first-time home buyers that they take the class, because after taking the class with MVHP, they just learn so much more in the home buying process, and they really understand the concept of team and working together with everybody in order to make this happen.
And then also getting pre-approved for mortgage, right?
Huge deal to get pre-approved, very much. Number one team member, first get the pre-approval letter, because without that, we're not going to be able to make an offer on a house. So ensuring that your finances are in order and that you have the pre-approval letter, that you've shopped around for the right bank, and that you know where you're going to head and what your interest rate will be and what your payments will be. Price range is huge. We don't want to take a buyer out to a house that's $100,000 more than they can afford. We want to take them out shopping within their price range.
Mm-hmm. That's great. And so by the time they come to you, they're set and ready to go.
Exactly.
And you can do your job, which is finding them the right house.
Exactly. I definitely like to set expectations like that. It's very important for them to have everything that they need in their hands and know what out-of-pocket expenses they're going to have their pre-approval ready, and be ready to go and find their dream house.
Kelly, how long have you been at this?
I've been at this almost 20 years, Jim.
Wow.
I know. Time flies.
Yeah, really, 27 for me.
Wow.
Now tell me, you speak multiple languages. What languages do you speak?
My first language, my primary, is Portuguese. And I also speak fluent Spanish, Italian, and French. In the Lowell community, with its diversity, I feel that I use my Spanish and my Portuguese skills quite often. And I actually just had some clients that spoke Creole. So then we started chatting in French the other day. So you never know what you're going to get. And I absolutely love the fact that when you're talking to somebody in their language, you really develop a true relationship with them. I feel like it's a form of respect, and I feel like they feel more comfortable working with someone that understands their language and that can also interpret the real estate home buying process so that they can completely understand it.
I think that's so important. You know, when I teach the classes and I look out in the room, it's like the UN. Yeah. You know, it's such a diverse group of people, and I think having real estate professionals who are culturally sensitive to people's backgrounds and languages and habits and interests and customs is so helpful in terms of making people feel comfortable, welcome, and making good decisions about the process.
It truly is, Jim. Absolutely.
What kind of clients do you have? Do you have a whole mix?
I have a melting pot, I would say. from A to Z. I definitely work with a lot of first-time home buyers, but I also work with folks that are investors, for example. A lot of my clients are repeat business because I've been in the business for quite some time, so I'll
Do
get...
you have the children of some of your earlier clients?
Yes, I am getting older now, and I feel old because, you know, once you sell the parents a house and then their kids come to you to buy a house, you're like, wait a second, how old am I again? How long have I been doing this?
Same thing happens with the home buyer training classes. I've been doing it for 27 years, so we have a lot of the people taking the classes now who say, hey, my parents took this class back in 1998.
And that's how
Like,
they
oh,
made their
great.
dream come true. You
I know, it's so wonderful to see.
Absolutely.
We've only got a minute left. Can you give us a quick story of a recent client that you've had or someone that's
Absolutely.
particularly warmed your heart?
Yeah, I think the most heartwarming story that I have is a woman and her 3 children that we were able to get their first house, and she actually surprised her kids at Christmas.
Oh, wow.
And walked into the house with my keychain on her key
I saw this
and
video.
said,
Yeah.
this is our house. The kids were in awe. They said, no, Ma, you're joking. Where's Kelly? Where's Kelly? She's not here. And then she sent me the video. I literally had tears in my eyes. As soon as the children realized the house was theirs, they kicked off their shoes, they ran around the house, and they said, Mom, this is the best Christmas present ever.
You know, as a matter of fact, I saw that video, and that video helped us secure a large grant
That's amazing.
that we shared with a grant maker. And you can't make it up. I mean,
No.
it's such a beautiful thing.
It is, and it's honestly, it's something that no matter how hard you work and what you do in this business, things like that are what really make me drive to do this more and more and make my love of working with first-time home buyers to make these dreams come true. They're just so appreciative. It's so different. The hugs, oh, I made you some empanadas, or, you know, come over for dinner, and just welcoming me into their family. It's really a true blessing to be working with first-time buyers and also having the assistance with Merrimack Valley Housing Partnership to make their dreams come true.
Well, thank you very much, Kelly. It's been a pleasure. And Kelly Espinola from Keller Williams, Merrimack Valley. Thanks for coming.
Thank you, Jim. Appreciate it.
I think the biggest takeaway for me was that I could actually do it, because there's a lot of times that you question yourself, you look at your finances and you look and you're like, you know, is this possible? Is it impossible? And for most of the time, if you're, let's say, you know, he was paying rent for so many years, and I remember we were having a conversation about, you know, paying $1,000 a month in rent, you know, for years. I think it was like 5 years. It's what, like $60,000, and you think about that, and you're really paying someone else's mortgage. So the fact of the matter is, if you can rent, you can own, pretty much.
Exactly. That's the way I figured it out too. And now the money is going toward me instead of somewhere else, and you know, I'm getting equity, and it's just, the feeling is great just to be a homeowner.
Hi, my name is Kathy Mercado, and I'm from Merrimack Valley Housing Partnership, the First Time Homebuyers Program with the Merrimack Valley. We're here with Brian, and he is an attorney with Alcorn and Owens out of Westford, Massachusetts. Hi, Brian.
Hello. Thank you for having me. I'm happy to be here.
Thank you for being here. What are the roles of an attorney in regards to the home buying process?
So the attorney generally gets involved at the beginning of the process, and we look at the contracts that are involved from the offer to the purchase and sale agreement. A lot of times we don't get involved with the offer because people sign them over the weekend and we get the call after, but we're always happy to look at them. So we work through the contracts, and then once that's all signed, we get going on the title search on your property that you're buying. We do an examination of all the transactions that have transpired over the past 50 years or so on your parcel of land that you're trying to buy. We look at every single conveyance, every single mortgage, make sure every single lien is extinguished, and see what we have for easements or anything like that. Every home is going to have easements for utilities and things like that, but we're going to take a look and see what has been recorded against that parcel of land. And then as we get to the closing, we conduct the closing. The bank will send us the closing documents, and we'll explain those to you at the closing table.
Okay. What are one of the things that come up in regards to when you're searching the title?
We're looking at every mortgage. Sometimes you'll see an old mortgage has been discharged by the wrong bank or something like that. So we'll try to cure those things. We're looking to make sure that every single conveyance was done properly, that the correct parties are signing deeds and things like that. Another thing that we're going to be doing throughout the process is we're going to order a plot plan of the property. So we're going to get a surveyor just to make sure that your house is sitting within the bounds and it's where we expect it to be, that the neighboring home isn't encroaching on your lot as well.
Okay. How far do you go back?
We go back, we're required to go back at least 50 years, but we have to start from a deed, so sometimes that means going back even further than that, but we go back at least 50 years.
Okay. And in regards to a closing, so how long does a closing take?
A closing is generally about 45 minutes. Sometimes it's longer if we have someone that wants to go through the forms more in depth, or if they want to read every single thing, it will take longer than that. But generally, we can explain each document and go through everything comfortably in about 45 minutes to an hour.
Okay. So let's say that the lender lists you as the closing attorney for the bank side. Should the buyer, can they also hire you in regards to their interest?
They can. Sometimes we will get the call that a buyer would like us to be there, even if we're not doing the closing, just to help them through the process, and we're happy to do that. Generally, the bank selects the attorney, though, and it's sort of a dual representation because everyone's interests are really the same. We're guaranteeing to you and the bank that you have good title to the property, but if there is any kind of conflict, then we would have to withdraw, but that doesn't generally happen. We can represent the bank and the buyer.
Okay. And how about reviewing the purchase and sales agreement?
So we do that as part of the process as well. The bank is going to be paying us anyway to be doing the closing, so we do it as a courtesy just to make sure that everything looks good, that you're not signing anything that could put your deposit in jeopardy.
Okay. Typically, I've heard that some attorneys do charge, and it's not a courtesy to review the purchase and sales agreement.
That's true. Some charge separately. By and large, that's not the case. Everyone's fees are kind of the same, but there's not that many attorneys that just focus on real estate, so we're kind of running in the same circles all the time, and you kind of see what everyone else is doing. But we do it as a courtesy. It's not huge money if you have someone just review the contract and that's it. But it's true, some attorneys don't. I suggest before you get that involved in the process, you talk to a few attorneys and find someone that you feel comfortable with, someone that's going to answer your questions and be able to speak to you on your level so that you are very comfortable with what you're doing.
Okay, well that's good. Another question I have, all the time I get buyers calling the office. Is this optional, titles insurance? It says it's optional. It's typically maybe $500 to $600, sometimes a little bit more than that.
Sometimes a little bit more than that. I suggest that everyone gets title insurance. So there's 2 title insurance policies in play in a residential closing. You're always going to have to buy the bank a lender's policy, and that's protecting the lender against any kind of title issue that the attorney missed or something that we couldn't have possibly found in the event the bank takes title to the property by a foreclosure. You're always going to have to buy that. You have the option to buy yourself the same type of protection. And although we're very thorough with our title examinations, I always tell people it's penny wise and pound foolish not to have it. We're talking, in the whole scheme of things, not a lot of money to protect your home, which is probably the biggest investment that you're going to be making. So it's a little bit of money to protect a lot of money, and you're going to buy it once, and it's as good as long as you own that property, that policy will protect you.
Yeah. Typically, that's what I say too. And then I say, well, just call your attorney. Who's your attorney? I'm sure that attorney's going to tell you, please.
Yeah.
It's optional, but do not avoid paying that.
Yeah,
okay?
it's definitely saved a few closings for us before. We've had to make claims on policies here and there.
Okay. Could you just tell us a short story of one of your memorable closings or an issue you had at a closing that you'll never forget? Anything, just.
There's a lot of them.
Sure.
I mean, we've had issues at last minute walkthroughs where there's damage to the property, things like that. So I always tell buyers you should visit the property not only the day of the closing before we sign, but do it a few days ahead of time. So if we know about an issue, we can take care of it. Like if the mover drops a bureau down the stairs, which we've had that happen before, and damages a wall, there's time to deal with it. We've had some fluky title issues before. The wrong party signed a deed or whatever, so things happen. But by and large, I like real estate just because buyers want to buy and sellers want to sell, and we're all sort of working towards that common goal of getting you in your home.
Home ownership, I mean, having the best team is one of the most important things that we stress to our buyers. It's very, very important for you to make sure you're weighing your options.
Yeah, I agree. It's important to get your team lined up before you even sign that first contract, because once you sign that, things start to happen pretty quickly. You have 10 days to find a home inspector, so it's good to have someone lined up in advance, see their availability, have your attorney available to read the contracts and to help you through the process.
Absolutely. Well, Brian, thank you so much for taking the time out of your day to sit with me here and do this interview for our series. Again, this is Kathy from the Merrimack Valley Housing Partnership. Thank you, Brian.
Thank you.
So we finally get it. We can finally the dream come true. Our first home. I mean, everybody want to get a family. I got a family, a beautiful, wonderful family. My next step was getting a home for my family. I don't see a home like just simply buying something. I see that home like something is bigger than a dream. So when we finally get the key, when they finally say this is your home now, it was a feeling that I can't describe with words. This is our first home, and everybody say that your first home is forever, and that's what I'm trying to do. I mean, the feelings. I'm still thinking that this is real. This is good. This is for real. I wake up every morning and stand out of my kitchen, look to my window, look the backyard of my house, and I'm still thinking, if this is a dream, please don't wake up. I don't want to wake up. I want to stay in here forever. I want to see my kids playing outside. I want to see my wife using her kitchen. So it's amazing, it's wonderful. I think that's the only thing that I can say.
Hi, my name is Ed Alcantara. I'm a home buyer counselor and an instructor. Today we have the pleasure of having a home inspector that's going to talk about the home inspection process. We have Matt Simpson with Inspectional Services here today. Welcome, Matt.
Hi, how are you today?
I'm well, thank you. We always say in the classes, never buy a house without a home inspection, and the audience will find out now why this is a very important part of the process. So tell us a little bit about yourself. How long have you been practicing as a home inspector in the field and been in the field?
It's been 30 years, and this is my 30th year of doing it. I did it before we were licensed, and now I do it as a licensed home inspector in Mass.
How many home inspections have you done over the years? I know you've done quite a bunch.
Yeah, I've done probably over 15,000 inspections.
Okay. Is there continuing education? I know you mentioned you were doing it before they required that. What do they require these days?
Well, under licensure in Massachusetts, we're required to have every 2 years to do 12 hours of continuous education. That would be, half of that is going over the regulations to make sure they're understanding the regulations and if there's any regulation changes for us. And the rest of it's all about different areas that technology may change, and heating systems and plumbing, electrical, things that we need to know about so that we can inform our clients as we do the inspection.
So you guys keep up with any technological changes that occur out in the field, so you have to take classes to be updated. Also, I know that you have other licenses, and a home inspector in a lot of cases may have additional licensure to help in the job, but your main focus is the home inspection part. So I know you mentioned that you had your lead license, but you're not there to do a lead inspection. You're there to do the home inspection. So what exactly does a home inspection typically cover?
Well, home inspection is structural mechanical. So it starts with the exterior of the building. We do from the roof, basically roof, chimneys, porches, decks, siding, landscaping, trim, driveways, walkways, electrical services, lights. So the full exterior of the building, even the landscape of the building, that's for water drainage and things like that, so there may be water in the basement. When we get done with that, we look at the foundation from the inside and outside. We look at the structure. Now, being in the structure, we look at the main support beams, columns, to make sure that we're structurally sound within the building. On completion of that, we check the full heating system, the electrical system, the plumbing system, every door, floor, wall, window, ceiling, electrical outlet throughout the unit that can be gotten to.
In other words, when you say that can be gotten to, something that you have access to or that you can visually see, because you can't see behind a wall.
Correct. In the fact, when people, and one of the things everyone should understand is that no one's going to take everything in an existing house where people live. They're not going to take all their personal items and put them in the lawn so we can do a home inspection. So there will be some obstructions, but a good educated home inspector is going to be able to look around those things, get a good idea of what we're dealing with. So it's never 100% you can see everything, but a good home inspector also will inform their client about what they can't see so they have an understanding of that.
Yeah, one of the things that we also encourage people is when they're looking at the house, they're doing a walkthrough because they're thinking they might make an offer. Look for those obstructions and let your real estate agent know that, hey, they got to move all the boxes away from the garage wall, because we've heard stories where they move in, they move the boxes, and there's termite damage.
That's correct.
So it's important for the home buyer to also be actively involved, letting the real estate agent know, hey, when the home inspector comes through, we have to have access to all this.
That's correct. And in some places, like I did an inspection actually yesterday, and the place was completely empty. Nice and easy for me, but those are nice. They don't happen often because usually someone's living in the house. You have more of it like when you have a multi-family, when you have a lot of things piled up in the basement that maybe sat down in there. Sometimes that becomes a little, and there are times we say, you need to remove this so we can look at it.
Sure.
And it's really following the advice of a home inspector too. A lot of people, they walk through the house, but they're giving you advice and they're educating you on the building. And you need to kind of follow that advice as you go through so that you have a good buying process.
So do you have home buyers that will bring the notebooks and write notes as you're going through? I know you're going to give them a good report, but now with the phones, they might take a picture of the electrical box and say, okay, we need to have this looked at. So do you find that people are using their technology, their iPhones and things like that?
All the time. I think it's great. I think it's awesome that they have it. Because I can say that a technical thing to someone who doesn't do that for a living. It's kind of like when my computer programmer talks to me about my computer. I have no idea what they're talking about, and that's why I trust him to do
You
it.
just want it fixed.
Right, that's exactly it. But now with the adaptation of phones and the cell phones and everyone with the good cameras inside, the quality cameras, they're getting some good pictures. And when they read the report, then they have understanding through the picture, which really is helpful. It really does.
Yeah. And we want to stress that people should read the report, because a lot of people get a home inspection report and they don't read it. And there's things that they really need to address then and there.
Absolutely. So when you get a home inspection report, it's really important that you go through it and then you ask questions. Like our report says, read the report, call us within 24 hours, so that you understand now, not after you buy it. Like you said, they move in, move the boxes, see something. But if the inspector said move those boxes, and they would have done it beforehand, they wouldn't have that problem. So good communication with the inspector, even after the inspection, is going to be very helpful for the home buying process.
Okay, great. There are some other tests that people may normally request or ask for, such as radon and pest inspections. Some companies include the pest inspection as their overall package. I know radon, in most cases, is usually a separate test.
That's correct. Well, radon, you could buy a radon kit at Home Depot. Anybody could do that. And they work fine. The problem is it takes like 2 to 3 weeks for it to return back. And within the home buying process, after you make arrangements, you usually have between 7 to 10 days to get your inspection done. So you're paying more money, and not a significant amount more money, for a quick turnaround. Usually it's a 48-hour turnaround. 2 days on site, 2 days at lab. So it's a lab cost. That's why you're paying additional. Home inspectors are not required to do insect inspections, because there's a separate license for that before we're in. Some home inspectors have it, some don't. We include it in all of our inspections, but some companies don't. So it's a great question to ask when you're booking, if you have a concern about it, are you doing a pest inspection? And if so, is there an additional charge?
And I certainly would not buy a house without that, because, if you have termite damage, it could be minimal or it could be extensive. Carpenter ants, powder post beetles, you've seen a lot of that stuff.
Oh, yeah.
Because people say, oh, well, that's probably in the warmer climates, but I know we have termites here in New England.
Yeah, we have only one type of termite in New England. It's a subterranean termite. So in some senses, they're a little easier to track than some of our southern states where they have dry rot ones that land on the roof. And they can eat up. Like in Florida, in California, before you sell a house, you have to tent the house for termites and have it treated. Every sale, it's a conveyance of sale. Massachusetts, we only have them subterranean, means they're in the dirt. So you can track them in the lower level of the house. The difficulty comes in if we have a finished basement, because you can't see the lower level of the structure. So looking for certain telltale signs of it in there, but that's not a complete definitive. Even if you had an insect company or a home inspector, they can't see through a wall. But
Right.
if there's exposed areas and you're checking the structure, you should run across them if they're there.
Right. And then at that point, you would say, get further consultation from an exterminator or a structural if there's damage that you can see.
Correct.
Okay. And so, as far as the actual home inspection, what are your responsibilities? Because people have this confusion where they think the home inspector is a code inspector. Oh, can I rent the apartment? Are there any violations? That's just one example. I'm sure you get a whole bunch of people asking you for expertise, like, does that pipe have asbestos? Anything, out of the realm of the normal process. What is your responsibility?
Well, there's a minimum standards we have, which are set by the state. And those are things that we all have to achieve minimum. Now, if we carry other licenses, we can go to those other licenses. So if I was a structural engineer, I can do structural engineering stuff along with my home inspection because I carry that license.
Right.
So really good, you made a couple of good points there. When you're looking at the place, our standards are that we have a guideline of what we follow. We run within those rules and regulations in there. So we must describe everything we see in a home inspection, whether it's good or bad. We must remove covers to electrical panel to pull off to evaluate the wires. Now, we're licensed to do that and electricians are, but nobody else is. The difference between me and an electrician is with the code part. The electrician can put a device in the panel, I can only observe a panel.
Right.
So calling code, we're not allowed to do that because even I'm a construction supervisor as well. I'm licensed to build. So when being licensed to build, I don't call code, I achieve code. So whatever I touch must achieve code. As a home inspector, I don't call code, I just show what's going on in the building. The building inspector by the town, electrical, plumbing, the regular building inspector, they call the code. So
Right.
we might say something's unsafe, it's not our standard, but we're doing sometimes buildings that are 90 years old and the word code didn't exist.
Sure.
So it runs inside there. It can be difficult and people ask the question all the time, is this of code? Well, what was code of that day?
Exactly.
So we look more at the functionability part of it, the safety part of it, and try to explain to them how long the things are going to last and what they can expect from the stuff.
So, again, I want to reiterate the importance of everybody buying a home should have a home inspection, even if it's a new home. And I want to thank you for providing this important information to our viewers. And is there anything else you might want to add?
Well, the only thing is when you're going out there, you spend you probably go into an open house and you spend a half hour in an open house. Home inspection is going to be 2.5, 3 hours. You're going to get a lot better feel for what you're dealing with. And it's I know it's money to be spent on that, but I think it's some of the best money you'll ever spend because you really get to learn about what you're doing. And this is a big expenditure. This is very important. It should be important to the home inspector as it is to you.
Well, on a closing note, I've had people say, I'm glad I spent the money because as a result, I realized I don't want this house, and it saved me a lot of headaches down the road. So, Matt, thank you for coming on. We appreciate you. So this is Matthew Simpson with Inspectional Services, who's our guest today. Thank you, Matt.
Thank you.